So if you don't mind me asking, what's so special about Lake Hilda? Dead of Winter was directed by Brian Kirk, who's mostly been involved in television, but has directed a few feature films throughout his career, such as 21 Bridges, and this was written by Dalton Lieb and Nicholas Jacobson Larson, the latter of which honestly sounds like a name absolutely way too snooty to be involved in a film simply titled Dead of Winter. I would half expect to read that name, Nicholas Jacobson Larson, in a Jane Austen, Stone Cold, wrong Austen, wrongston as it were. But yeah, in a Jane Austen novel, you might expect Nicholas Jacobson Larson to pop up. Ladies, may I introduce Nicholas Jacobson Larson, Esquire III. At your service, madame. May I have this dance? You have a lovely daughter. Yes. So the very uber-talented Emma Thompson plays a recent widow named Barb that is trying to honor the memory of her late husband, Carl, by going ice fishing at a spot that they have been to before in the most northern Minnesota wilderness part of the northern Minnesota wilderness. It's kind of repetitive right there. But it is a place so isolated, the closest town is 2 to 3 hours away. So you better make sure that your truck or your vehicle is full of gas, you have the best tires, you have every supply you need, because a hell of a goddamn trek to the fucking grocery store, general store, or whatever it is. And because she is a wily, elderly lady that knows these roads pretty well, she's able to get there easily, except until she has to stop and ask for directions. And then it turns out she shouldn't have done that. You will have met with a terrible fate, haven't you? Or maybe not. We'll have to find out. And even though she's ice fishing, it turns out there's treachery afoot very, very close. And she must find a way to stop said treachery and possibly save the day. So yeah, this movie basically lives and dies on the gifts of Emma Thompson. Thankfully, she has a lot of gifts, and I mean that with respect. She is very, very talented. I mean, for decades, Emma Thompson has shined in pretty much any project she's been in. And thankfully, she is up to the task here. This movie must have, just been super, super difficult to shoot, though. There's some breathtaking shots of the wilderness, but it looked like it was bitterly cold. I mean, I know it's called Dead of Winter, but damn, they didn't pull no punches on this stuff. It looked like it was really, really tough to shoot, and people were going to possibly, succumb to hypodermia, I think. I think that's what the term is. But in all seriousness, Emma Thompson, so good, is able to anchor this movie and carry it along, even through the cliches and the problems that this movie ends up having. And there are logic loopholes that are so deep and wide, you could lead a herd of moose through there. Watch me pull the rabbit out of my hat. Presto! Ooh, should have picked another logic loophole. That trick never works, Bullwinkle. Can't do impressions like I used to. But Emma Thompson is up to the task to basically carry this movie that's a standard premise, but has enough moments to carry you along that even when the ridiculousness kicks in, especially in the latter half and especially in the third act, and honestly, especially in the last 15 minutes, it gets silly. But it ends up actually being fairly fun, I will say that. And also the other actors that are in is Judy Greer, who's trying to scrub off the stink of the recent, Halloween trilogy, at least the one she was in. And Mark Menchaca, who was in Companion and The Creator, who's actually a very good actor. He's also been in a lot of television. And Laurel Marsden, who was the daughter in The Pope's Exorcist. I knew I recognized her, but I was like, what the hell? Oh, that's her. That's who that is. So really, Emma Thompson's strengths are what carry this film. Other than that, yes, there are issues I will talk about in the spoiler section, but really, this is a fine movie. I had fun with it, even with the aforementioned moose-filled logic loopholes. That being said, I am going to get into spoilers. It's going to be in theaters this weekend if you want to check it out. So 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, basically, we get flashbacks sprinkled into how we find out how her and Carl got together, and also we find out how certain people get involved in all this in this idyllic ice fishing trip. So while trying to find this lake that she hasn't been to in a while, she ends up happening upon the house of Mark's character, who's named Camo Jacket on IMDb. She sees blood in the snow, but it's like, oh, don't worry. By the way, I do need to point out the Minnesota or Midwest accents are almost laughably bad. And I'm not even talking like Fargo, where they overdid him for fun. This is like, it's laughably silly, but it's also fun. Emma Thompson at least has fun with it. I mean, I don't think it's meant to be offensive, but it's just it's almost distractingly silly. But she's like, all right, she decides to go ice fishing. She's ice fishing, has a nice setup and everything. Even this little outhouse-like thing that she had in the back of this little shed thing she had in the back of her truck. And then suddenly, here's come back here, you bitch. So it is Camo Jacket chasing a young girl. He ends up basically getting her back to the place, and she decides she must go rescue this girl. She goes to the house, she sees that he's there, or she sees that she's there in the basement, and writes in the frost, "I won't leave you, I promise." And it turns out the Camo Jacket is not alone. There's another character called Purple Lady, played by Judy Greer, who is not doing all that well, and it turns out these two are actually married. And it turns out Judy is very sick. Also, there are a bunch of drugs in the house that end up getting put in a sink by Barb. I don't know why. It's just so hilarious. It's just so ridiculous. A bunch of fentanyl and stuff like that. And you wonder why in the world somebody would have that many drugs, especially out in the middle of nowhere. Are they doing drug deals? Who are they giving drug deals to? Fucking Bambi's great-great-great-grandfather, if in awful English. No, it turns out actually that there is a reason why all these medical supplies are out there and all these drugs are out there. Purple Lady works at a hospital, and that girl is going to factor into some plans. You might think they're hunting her for sport, or they're going to trade her for some kind of bad favors from very sick individuals. Nope, neither of those. There is one little funny thing where basically Barb ends up, creating enough of a stink and, lights like a fire in that little shed thing, so they go out to try and, get her. And Camo Jacket ends up falling through this, hole in the ice that she made. And we see in the flashbacks, twisting this giant, almost like cork, like trying to uncork the Jack and the Giant Beanstalk's Giant's, wine bottle, doing this and everything, and twisting that around. So she manages to create the hole in the ice. It just forms enough, and then Camo Jacket is going to succumb to hypothermia, which somehow they managed to get back. Him and the Purple Lady get back. I'm just going to say Judy and Mark. It's just easier. It's like Punch and Judy, except I think that people were punch drunk a few times with some of the scenarios they came up with. But she's trying to free this girl. And also guns are involved, and it turns out that Mark left his gun there, and she is able to scramble back and get the gun. But unfortunately, there is only one bullet. One bullet left. Hey, laughing boy. And Judy, it turns out, actually is really good with a sniper rifle, despite being sick. More on that here in a bit. And basically, as stuff goes on, she's evading the bullets, evading the stuff, and she ends up basically almost freeing this girl. She ends up managing to fuck up the sink and, do the stuff with the drugs and stuff like that. But as Mark is trying to get her while she's trying to call on a CB radio, she ends up hitting him in the foot with a goddamn hammer that she used to break the window to get to aforementioned CB radio. And she manages to get through to a couple people, more on that in a second. And she basically damages his foot, and he's trying to apologize. My wife is sick. We're trying to, get something, but I'm not a bad guy. I'm not this. So while Judy has Leah, the idea is they're going to set this stuff up on a lake, and they're going to take care of this. What are they setting up on a lake? More on that in a minute. Mark ends up trying to drive away, but then he ends up obviously getting killed and used as bait for neat little thing. About an hour in, it turns out that Barb was able to get a hold of these guys, these two hunters, and she's got her arm kind of hung, weird, because she also had to use fishing line to tie up her arm in some, alcohol and stuff like that, because she got shot, but she's basically trying to help her arm. But unfortunately, whether the bullet grazed her, whether the bullet's still in her, it hurts. And she's also got the gun, and she got the last remaining bullets from Camo Jacket before he died. So she's got like 5 bullets. And then gets these hunters, are in this big old Dodge, like 3500. Her truck's stuck, by the way. She can't get up the goddamn hill. She can't run up the hill, as that song in Stranger Things said. And basically, they go back to this cabin. And, this Jeep is like the Jeep that Judy was driving is running. And these hunters get out. They have her gun locked safely away, by the way. Barb's gun. And they end up basically both getting shot. Stupidly, because humanity is really, really dumb in the wilderness. She gets her gun and manages to only clip, she manages to get her with one bullet, but the problem is she wastes all 5. Because she's resourceful, but she's also whatever, this kind of stuff. It's fine. It's okay. And she ends up managing to damage her foot, Judy's foot, but she also gets caught, knocked out, and now both of them are caught in the basement. We have Barb and we have Leah. We find out her name's Leah a little bit later on. And we get another flashback where basically Carl was not doing all that well. She was going to make him breakfast and he ended up dying right there while making the eggs. Carl, your eggs are ready. I guess the yolk's on you, Carl. And there's this one thing when they were younger, it's we don't quit. We don't quit. Also, she also blew up her truck to get the hunters' attention before they end up dying. That was a neat little thing. There was something funny about how it looked like the rag that she put in there was going to stop and then start up again and blew up and she nearly got killed. So basically it comes down to her having to free herself from being, handcuffed. Her bad arm, which seemingly she's able to lift up just fine now. And maybe she's just gutting through the pain. Maybe it's gangrene. Maybe it's just, movie logic. And she lifts up and manages to get herself free. And this is after tossing her boots and then getting Leah's boots up there to basically stop, or to get, this box that turns out it's this tackle box that actually has her husband's ashes. That's what she was going to go do. She was going to go sprinkle his ashes at Lake Hilda. That's all she wanted to do. All this to sprinkle the ashes. She also told a story just before freeing both of them about her great-great-grandfather in the Great Blizzard of 1888 and leading his ox in a sack of grain through the winter, through this blizzard. And if he hadn't done that, she wouldn't be there and she wouldn't have met her husband. And it's silly. It's ridiculous. This is where the movie may unravel for some people. Some people might not be on board. I was on board until this point, so I can let the logic loopholes lie. But she manages to free Leah, and they're about to get out through the storm door. But Judy is there with the gun, and essentially they're going to go, on to this. Suddenly, this tent, this pitched in the lake. On the lake, rather, right near that little outhouse shed thing that she had. And why? Judy's sick, and the idea, and this is where it's just totally silly. This is where the movie should have lost me, but I knew it was near the end. I was like, whatever, it's fine. She was going to have her husband, if everything went according to plan, she was going to have her husband take Leah, because Leah was an exact match for a liver, because she worked at a hospital and stuff like that, and found out about Leah and found out a way to kidnap her. And now the idea is she's having to take these drugs basically to stay alert and everything and stay as coherent as possible because her liver is failing. She was going to take the liver out, put it in this thing on this tent in the middle of an ice lake. And then someone managed to get it to where she could get this liver put in her. No question about the logistics of a doctor wondering how she got this liver. So that right there. Let's just roll with it. And by the way, Dalton played the young hunter that got killed a little bit later on. But yeah, that's what they were going to do. Going to take the liver out. And it looks like, okay, Barb's about to, Barb's got to do her bidding and stuff like that. And she did manage just before that to hand a screw to her, to Leah, and said, a souvenir. And more on that here in a second. Barb ends up basically getting shot after taping Leah down. But obviously she gets back up because she had the container with the ashes used as a shield because movie logic. So she's fighting with her. She has that handcuff thing still, that long handcuff deal, but she has it stuffed in her sleeve. And her and Judy are battling. And during this fracas, the tent ends up being caught on fire. Leah gets herself free, manages to get the fire off of her, and this is where the movie actually sort of lost me. But Barb could have easily knocked Judy right into the ice and everything, instead of doing what she did. She ends up taking the handcuff, dragging her down and everything, and they both drown. Judy drowns, Barb drowns, but not before releasing her husband's ashes. She was not going to leave the girl, she promised, but then she left her and she died. And the girl just starts wandering off, and then the movie ends. And it's like, what? What kind of ending is that? I'm not expecting like a super happy ending, but it's like, okay, did she make it back to civilization? Were other people aware of this? Did they really think this plan of getting a liver out of a girl in a fucking tent on an ice lake was a good idea? What? B? I mean, it's entertaining. I mean, it's like realistically, I normally would, had this not involved Emma Thompson, I probably would have given it a much lower grade, but I was entertained by it. It's not something I'm going to remember much probably within a few weeks, but B, I mean, I've certainly seen a lot worse. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rightland. Until we get into the northernmost Minnesota wilderness part of the northern Minnesota wilderness, again, don't you know, see you soon.